Hello friends, I am back with another video. Today is time for my March wrap up. It's a little late, I'm sorry. In March I ended up reading 13 books, which was definitely fine. 2 of them were rereads, and in all I read 5,268 pages with an average book length of 405 pages per book, which is definitely above average for me. I think it comes down to the fact that one of my books was 900 pages, and I definitely didn't read all of them this month, but I read half of it, so it still have a pretty high number in total. In terms of genres, it was a bit of a mixed bag, but mostly romance. I read 7 romance books, I read 2 mysteries, and then I read 1 horror, 1 paranormal romance, 1 fantasy, and 1 sci-fi book. In terms of formatting, I read 1 that was a trade paperback, 5 were ebooks, and 7 were audiobooks. In terms of age group, 11 of them were adult and 2 of them were YA. In terms of publication year, I read 1 that was in the 90s, that was published in the 90s, 1 that was published in the 2000s. I read 4 that were published in the 10s. I read 3 that were published in 2020, 2 that were published in 21, and 2 that were published in 2023. In terms of page length, I read 3 books that were between 200 and 299 pages. I read 6 books between 300 and 399 pages. Then I read 2 books between 400 and 499 pages. I read 1 book between 500 and 599 pages. And then I read 1 book between 900 and 999 pages. And the longest book I read in March was 4 Past Midnight by Stephen King. It comes in at 930 pages. The shortest book I read was Miles Ever After. It comes in at 236 pages. In terms of series versus standalone, I read 11 books that were part of a series and 2 that were standalone. Out of the 11 series books, 3 of them I started, 7 of them was a continuation, and then I completed a series. In terms of author gender, 3 were male authors and the remaining 10 were females. I seem to not have read very many male authors this year. And in terms of rating, I read 1 book that were 3 stars, 4 books that were 3.5 stars, 4 books that were 4 stars, 3 books that were 4.5 stars, and I read 1 that was a 5 stars, although that was a reread. So those were all of the stats. Now let's get into the books. The first book that I read in March was Dry by Neal Shusterman. I read the majority of this in February, but I didn't manage to finish it until the beginning of March. This is a dystopian science fiction book set in the US, where people don't have much water any longer because of climate changes, and so everyone are desperate to get some sort of water, but the water system has broken down and there's nothing left, more or less. So everyone are fighting for what sort of water there is, and it becomes like, yeah, that. So anyway, I ended up enjoying this quite a bit. I think that the way that they handle a situation like this, where there's a catastrophe like this, where there were quarantines and not a lot of people had anything left, and they were fighting for everything. I mean, it seemed pretty realistic, also considering what we've been through ourselves, so I saw that similarities. There were things that I didn't care for so much, also because I'm not super into the genre anymore. I don't know why I picked it up, but I mean, it was okay for the genre, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, so it's definitely not bad or anything. It was above average, but I didn't love it. The next thing that I finished was A World Without Princes by Soman and Chainani. This is the second book in the School for Good and Evil series, and this one, Agatha and Sophie comes back to their fairy tale when they find out that Agatha isn't completely happy with the happily ever after that she got in the previous one. So they were swept back into the fairy tale world and things happened. It's definitely darker than the first one, I think so. I like that aspect of it, but I generally think that it was probably a little bit too long in my personal opinion. I do like the sort of references to fairy tales in the way that they're done in here. It's not like crammed down your throat, but they're there, and I like that. So I enjoyed this and I gave it 3.5 stars. The next thing that I finished was Seduction in Death by J.D. Robb. This is the 14th book. Yeah, this would be 13. This is, in this one we have a mystery or murderer going, like, they are sort of giving them a drug that gives them, makes them really incredibly horny, and like they experience this high, and once like they finish having sex they basically die of that drug. And then there are these two guys who gives out these drugs, who is making like a competition for themselves, and that is basically the mystery that we're trying to solve here, finding out who they are and getting them behind bars, because like they keep switching out who they want to seduce like that, and they don't really have to do anything, they don't even have to pay for anything, because it ends up being the women that pays because they're so excited to be with them, kind of thing. Yeah, so it was definitely interesting. Not my favorite mystery, but I enjoyed a lot of the other things, and I also enjoyed like the way that they uncovered the mystery. There's definitely a lot of things going on with Eve concerning her past. She has been in a bad situation in the past, and I'm not gonna go way much more into it, but yeah, she's struggling sometimes, and I like that how she worked on that as well. Like there's a lot of things that went on. I end up giving it 4.5 stars. I do tend to enjoy them. It's still not my favorite in-depth book, so hopefully one of the next ones will do it for me. The next thing I finished was Pipe Dreams by Sarina Bowen. This is book 3 in the Brooklyn Bruiser series. This one follows, I think she was called Lauren. She is a sort of stand-in while this other girl, she gets a head injury, who is the main character in the next book that I already read. And she helps out while she's out with that head injury. And then there is sort of a second chance romance again. They were together before, but split up because of different things. And now they're back together. The first book in this series was also a second chance romance, but I think that this one worked for me better. I think we saw the romance evolving in a different way. It wasn't like they get back together and they're just in this romance. It was, they still had to rebuild their romance again, and I like that aspect of it. So I end up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Her Texas New Year's Wish by Michelle Mayer. This is the first book in this Harley Quinn special edition that I've been working on. I have just finished the last Harley Quinn book, so I will have the vlog up soon, so you'll find out more about my thoughts of it. But I definitely enjoyed this one. This is one of the Fortunes of Texas. They're like these long running series arcs in the categories, and this one in the special edition we have the Fortunes of Texas being one of them. And I really enjoyed this one. We follow this girl who becomes a hotel manager, getting, like, she has an internship where she's like part of the hotel management, making sure that the opening of this hotel becomes the best it can get. But on one of the big evenings, she's on the balcony and it collapses under her and gives her a big injury. And then we have our male lead, who is the brother of the owner of the hotel. He comes back, he's a lawyer, he comes back from where he lives. I forgot the city, maybe it was New York, I'm not sure. It was definitely a bigger city. He comes back to Texas where they're opening this for the grand opening and helping out. And when this happens, he just met her and he has like this infatuation with her. So when she becomes injured, he makes it his mission to figure out what happened and make sure that she is okay and all of that. And he help out with the legal stuff in terms of this accident so that it doesn't spiral out of control. And then after that, there's like her getting back together and also still wanting to be part of the opening. So someone else doesn't take her shine or role in the hotel and stuff. But I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed this aspects that was surrounding them, like the whole hotel aspects, what went on, but also enjoyed the romance here, so I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Selling Sandcastle by Rhobards Thompson. I was supposed to read a different book for the special edition, but I couldn't get that book on Kindle, so I had to switch it out with something else, and I saw this one. This is a 2023 release, so I decided to try it out. This is, I didn't know what it was about, I just picked it out. This is apparently, we follow this family who has this company Selling Sandcastle, which is real estate agency, and they're in a small town, and they are being picked up to be part of this reality show, the whole family. And then we have our female lead who comes in. She is hired to be part of the this reality TV show, because she has to be the like an interior designer for them, so that they can be sure that they give the best look when people come out and look for the houses, and they can make a sale and stuff. They have both have a lot of baggage going on. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I think my main issue is that it was sort of a set on this reality TV thing. It didn't really work for me. It created some unintentional drama that I didn't really care for, and yeah. But I liked it. I didn't love it. 3.5 stars is still a fine rating. The next thing that I read was Wild Man's Creek by Robyn Carr. This is book 12 in the Virgin River series, I think. In this one, our main character, we follow this woman. She is part of this IT software engineering company. She's high up in the ranks, and she has been having this romance going on with this guy, but they haven't told anyone because they didn't want to make a fuss about it, because it's a workplace situation. But then it turns out that he is using her and saying that she came like for a sexual harassment thing, and he has a lot of things because he sent text messages and emails where she sort of professed her feelings to him, and he didn't do it in return, so it didn't seem like it was a mutual thing. So she is sort of on a sort of forced leave, if you will, getting away from the office while to make sure that to save her face, basically. And she comes to Virgin River and sees a house for sale, and decides to try and rent it out in the time while they're looking for a new owner and while she's getting her foot back together. And at the same time, we have this male who in the previous book got injured in a flight accident, and he's sort of on the mend and recovering from that, and they have this romantic fling together. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was not my favorite for Virgin River, but I definitely also, it was just fine. I thought it was okay. The next thing that I read was, yeah, now we get into the reread thing, almost. I read Miles Ever After by Swan. This is the 5th book, but it's not really a book, it's a short story collection. It is a companion of 4 extra epilogues that was made for each of the books in the Miles High. What is it called? Miles High Club? Anyway, so there's an epilogue for each of the book. And the epilogue for the Stopover I gave 4 stars, I think. The epilogue for the Takeover I gave 4.5 stars. The epilogue for the Casanova I gave 5 stars. And the epilogue for the Do-Over I gave 3 stars, 2.5 to 3 stars. So I ended up giving it as a whole a 4 out of 5 stars. To give take the average rating out of this. I really enjoyed the Casanova's epilogue. It sort of involved infertility. They struggled to get a baby, basically, and that was sort of their extra epilogue. And I liked how it would handle. It was a rough reading. It was not super easy to read it, but I think that the way that they handled it or she handled it, was something that really worked for me, and that's why I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. The Takeover was a ride. If you read the book, you know the situation. There's a lot going on with family stuff. Very Tristan and Anderson thing. Very fun. I definitely enjoyed it, and that's why I gave it a 4.5 stars. It wasn't a full 5 stars just because I needed more of that if I was to give it a higher rating, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. The Stopover I gave 4 stars was interesting because it was like, again, showing Jameson, Miles, the male here, with his struggles with the company. He has a tendency when things go bad with the company, he takes everything on his own shoulders, obviously because he's the CEO, and it stresses him out and it gives him some challenges. And Emily, his wife, takes him like out of the office and tries to make him get better mentally and to make a better version of himself, and it's an interesting process. I actually really enjoyed it. 4 stars for that. So overall, the reason I give the Do-Over a lot less is just the characters just doesn't make it for me, and the what happened here wasn't just, again, not really something that I absolutely loved. I did like to see there were sort of references to what could happen in the future with other series, so I'm looking forward to see what he'll end up doing, because I definitely have a thing that's going to be a next generation Miles thing, and it's going to start out with 2 of the characters. I think there's going to be a lot of books in the in the next generation, because they have sprout out babies left and right. The next thing I read was A Call for Kelp by Bree Baker. This is the next book in the Seaside Cafe mystery. I've lost track of the number. I think it's book 5, if I'm not mistaken. This is my favorite in the series so far. This one, it is we have this thing going on. We have a visitor coming in from outside, who apparently knew our main character's mother, and she's very nice, and the next thing that happens is that she's actually murdered and captured in this bee tank. She is allergic to bees, so everyone assumes in the beginning that she was trapped in here and the bee were what killed her, but it wasn't actually in that way. They figure out quite fast that she was passed away before she came into the bee tank, and then the mystery evolved from there. It was very interesting mystery. I liked, again, she just writes mysteries so well, and I like the banter she has with her aunts, and I like the things that she has with the sheriff in town. It's just a good balance of everything, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what will happen in the coming books. Really enjoyed this one, gave it 4.5 stars. Yeah, now we get into the rereading part, because after reading the Miles Ever After, I wanted to reread the original books just to remind me why like the things that I connected from that, some of the things that I've forgotten about. I wanted to reread them just to get that feeling again. And so I reread The Stopover by T.L. Swan, and I just stuck with the rating of 4.5 stars with this one. My favorite thing the thing with these books is that they're a lot of fun. I like the banter between the characters, both between our male characters and their brothers, but also how they have the banter they have between themselves, and like the friendship that our female character builds. There's obviously some things that are a little bit out there and that would probably not happen in real life, but I still enjoyed them a lot, and I end up always like getting so immersed in the story and reading them in next to no time. So it's easy for me to read a 500-page book like this, because yes, this is like just over 500 pages. I think the Casanova is the longest one, but I think this one is 500, so just over 500 pages. And I love it. I like that because it has a lot of depth to them as well as the humor. I think we see a lot of things that they're struggling with in both of them, the characters individually, and it brings an interesting romance here. It's definitely not the best, and it's definitely not going to be for everyone. So bear that in mind if you think about picking it up. It is very male dom kind of thing in some ways. Yeah, I end up giving it again 4.5 stars. Then I read Hexed History by Danielle Garrett. I had to switch around my stacking the series thing because I realized I don't have an audio for the Pancake House mystery series. More of them, I used to have them, but I don't have any more. So I don't know what happened to them, if they were just never there or what happened. It's not on Audible either. So I decided to switch my mystery series around to something else, and I remembered I started this 9 Lives Magic series, because there's like 9 books in this series. I mean, I think there's 7 now, but I think it's gonna be 9 because 9 Lives Magic, it makes a lot of sense in terms of the number. Yeah, so I do have enough to read from here, and I checked that I have all of them on my Storytel, so I do have that. And this was again interesting. We follow this. This is a sort of cozy mystery with like witchy magic happening alongside it, a little bit like Vampire Knitting Club, but this is it's not as good as the Vampire Knitting Club, but I still enjoy it. I had a lot of fun with it because I really enjoy Celine. What is the cat's name again? There's a cat in here, and she's so like angry cat, kind of like yeah, she definitely wants to rule and looks at everyone like they're beneath her, and which is a very cat thing to do, so I kind of like that. I believe the cat is called Celine, and in this one we have a murdering happening to this guy. I think he has like a library kind of thing with some ancient books and stuff, and at the same time our main character is searching for someone and not really getting any answers, and so she decides to try and seek clues for herself, and she goes to seek out this man, and then it turns out that he's dead, and there's a murder mystery going on here because there's someone pushed him down the stairs. And yeah, ended up enjoying this quite a bit. I gave it 4 stars. It was a lot of fun. One of my favorite things was the cat, and but there was also a lot of good relationships intermingled in here that it's going to be interesting to follow in the future. The next thing that I finished was, finally I finished 4 Past Midnight by Stephen King. I started this back in, I think, August last year. I'm not sure what the time was, and I didn't really enjoy the stories. I don't remember very much from the first story. I think I gave it 2 stars because I really don't remember much from it, and I remember I didn't enjoy it when I was listening to it. The second one I gave 3 stars. It was better, but still not great. But then the third story was very, very creepy. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I definitely enjoyed that quite a lot. It was sort of a vampire story in a library setting and was really creepy. And the last one was also really good, and I think I gave it 4 stars. So in all, I think I gave it a total of 3 stars. I think that was the average rating. So this is sort of similar. The 4 Past Midnight is similar to Different Seasons. The difference is that Different Seasons didn't have any supernatural elements to the stories, but this one does. It's almost sci-fi based. So yeah, that was a big difference between the 2 type of collections. I had hopes that I was really going to love it, but I didn't. But yeah, I'm happy I finished it so that I can move on with my Stephen King project finally. And the last and final thing that I read was another reread, and that was the Takeover by Swan. This is one of my favorites in the series. I gave it 5 stars this time around as well. I mean, I just stuck with the rating that I gave it last time. I think that the fact that I want to reread them makes it so that is a good sign that I really like them. So I don't reread books that I don't want to, that I didn't enjoy in the first place, more or less, unless I think that I misunderstood something. But mostly I just don't reread books that I don't like. So yeah, I gave this one 5 stars again. This is an age gap romance where the female is older. Our main female character, she has 3 boys. One of them is a teenager. He's like 16 or 17. I think he's 16. There around. And then we have the middle child, Harry, who is like 12. And then we have the youngest child, Patrick, who is 9 or something, 10, something like that. And obviously, anyway, I just remember her as Anderson now. But she is a widower and owns Anderson Media. After it's just something her husband built up, and she's in the cups of losing it. And then Tristan Miles is sort of one of those people who goes in and takes over a company to benefit from it and takes it to his own personal gain. And he comes with an offer to buy her out of the property, but she blandly refuses it. And then she decides to go on this trip to France in order to sort of re-inspire herself in a way and get the better version of herself. And the main speaker at this conference thing that she goes to in Paris, no, not in Paris, in France, southern France I think, is none other than Tristan Miles. And then they have a romance going on because it's like she decides there's a big attraction between the two, and she can sort of, but it's only going to be this weekend or week kind of thing, couple of days where she's there, and then it will all be over once she gets back to the States. But obviously, as things goes, it doesn't really go like that. Yeah, it's very interesting seeing the relationship here, because there's a lot of fun stuff happening with the kids. The kids that don't really like Tristan in the beginning, and they make sure they make it it's a really challenging time for Tristan, but it's a lot of fun. And I really enjoy this. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars, as I said. You don't always see things coming, and you just have a big laugh while you're reading it. And I didn't knock down anything, but if I were to give it some negative points, it's sometimes that Claire, that's her name, Claire Anderson. Claire has some, I mean, she has some insecurities about herself and stuff, and that's fair. And she has a difficult time giving in to Tristan completely, because she still obviously loves her husband, and she feels like guilt to him because she's found someone she has such a big attraction to. And but then there are the way that she handles some things, I was just like, no, that's a little bit childish and doesn't really sit well with me. But at the end of the day, I just love this story, and Tristan saves everything. It was a good way to end up the month. And so had a good amount of rereading this month, and I enjoyed myself. Definitely went off track in terms of my TBR, but hopefully I'll get back on track with that in March. We'll see. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below what you read in March. Have you read any of the books that I was talking about today? Are there any of the books that you're thinking about picking up? Let me know about that in the comments down below as well. And yeah, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye.